Hail to thee, blithe spirit, bird thou never wert, that from heaven or near it pourest thy full heart in profuse strains of unpremeditated art. Higher still and higher from the earth thou springest, like a cloud of fire. The blue deep thou wingest, and singing still dost soar, and soaring ever singest. In the golden lightning of the sunken sun, o'er which clouds are brightening, thou dost float and run, like an unbodied joy whose race is just begun. The pale purple even melts around thy flight like a star of heaven in the broad daylight. Thou art unseen, but yet I hear thy shrill delight, keen as are the arrows of that silver sphere, whose intense lamp narrows in the white dawn clear, until we hardly see, we feel that it is there.
All the earth and air, with thy voices loud, as when night is bare from one lonely cloud, the moon rains out her beams, and heaven is overflowed. What thou art, we know not, what is most like thee. From rainbow clouds there flow not drops so bright to see, as from thy presence showers of rain of melody. Like a poet hidden in the night, in the light of thought, singing hymns unbidden, till the world is wrought, to sympathy with hopes and fears it heeded not. Like a high-born maiden in a palace tower, soothing her love-laden soul in secret hour, with music sweet as love, which overflows her bower, like a glowworm golden in dell of dew, scattering unbeholden its aerial hue, among the flowers and grass which screen it from the view.
Like a rose embowered in its own green leaves, by warm winds deflowered, till the scent it gives, make faint with too much sweet of those heavy-winged thieves. Sounds of vernal showers on the twinkling grass, rain awakened flowers, all that was ever. Joyous and clear and fresh thy music doth surpass. Teach us, sprite or bird, what sweet thoughts are thine. I have never heard praise of love or wine, that panted forth a flood of rapture so divine. Chorus hymnal of triumphal chaunt, match with thine would be all, but empty vaunt. A thing wherein we feel there is some hidden want. What objects are the fountains of thy happy strain? What fields are waves or mountains? What shapes of sky or plain? What of love thine own kind? What of ignorance of pain?
With thy clear, keen joyance, languor cannot be. Shadow of annoyance never came near thee. Thou lovest, but thou never knew love's sad satiety. Waking or asleep, thou of death must deem things more true and deep than we mortals dream. Or how could thy notes flow in such a crystal stream? We look before and after, and pine for what is not. Our sincerest laughter with some pain is fraught. Our sweetest songs are those that tell the saddest thought. Yet if we could scorn hate and pride and fear, if we were things born not to shed a tear, I know not how thy joy we ever should come near. Better than all measures of delightful sound, better than all treasures that in books are found. Thy skill to poet were, thou scorner of the ground. Teach me half the gladness that thy brain must know, such harmonious madness from my lips would flow. The world should listen then, as I am listening now.
Alrighty guys, so what do y'all think of Percy Shelley's To A Skylark?
I think just the overall tone is just him really looking at the bird and really he's just trying to figure it out.
Trying to understand it.
Yeah, it's because he talks about how it's like a star of heaven, and he tells the bird, he says, teach us sprite or bird, and so that he's like referring to it as a spirit, and when something is so divine and heavenly like the skylark, you can't really articulate what it is or like what it represents. So I think a lot of basically like the entire poem is just the speaker looking up to the skylark and just really trying to figure out.
I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah.
And that one part, like to go for what you were saying, it says joyous and clear and fresh, thy music doth surpass. He is like doing the same thing about him and the skylark song that he's singing, trying to figure out it and trying to compare it to like poems and like voices, but he can't figure it out. He just thinks.
Well, he thinks that anything the bird does, we can't compare to it.
Yeah,
Anything we
yeah,
made.
exactly.
It talks down here with clear and keen joyance, that joyous again,
Yeah.
that languor cannot be, which is mean like evil or pain or suffering. That there's no association of anything bad with this bird.
Yeah, exactly. It's all
The bird
positive
is like
connotations.
pure and like kind of like heavenly. It's kind of like you said, divine, and above
Sure.
like anything else. And but he says like there's a sadness to it, which is like the kind of like human sadness, almost like representative of the human condition.
Yeah, and
I guess.
he says, waking or asleep, thou of death must deem. So I think what he's trying to say is that the bird maybe kind of realizes that the alternative is death. So, you know, and he even, like, he talks about, like, how he can't, like, at first he describes the song as being so joyous and, you know, beautiful.
Yeah,
and then he's like, oh, well, you know, there's this hint of sadness in there, you know, because, you know, the bird knows that he's eventually going to die.
Yeah.
I think it is also kind of sad for like the humans because they're not as
They'll never reach that
they'll never
divine.
they'll always
Yeah,
have
they
like
understand
sin
that.
because they always want like it's a human thought sin always and they can
Yeah.
never be perfect and the bird is pure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he says things more true and deep than we mortals dream. So,
Yeah.
you know, earlier he
Talking
compares
about
it.
we can't attain that ideal,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
ultimate presence, that we will never be able to reach it because of our use the word perfection. Exactly, we won't ever reach that. We can't in our state now. However, he's saying that the bird is, because I mean, if you look at a skylark is a skylark. A skylark 100 years from now will be a skylark.
Yeah, it's gonna be the same
Or
thing.
it's unchanging. That's the thing
Yeah.
that's carried on. Whereas we as humans have completely.
We're constantly changing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
It's
that's our
nothing's
nature.
ever the same.
I
Exactly.
mean, like if you just look at the basis of history, it's the whole point is that we've changed and we've gotten better. Whereas a skylark, and among with other birds and things, I know like Percy or Mr. Shelley, whatever he is, he talks about all the time, not just like birds, but that's one thing, but nature is constant all the time.
Yeah.
The seasons are constant. You know, yes, they may be more intense at times, but the seasons are still the seasons. There are things that are known and that are able to be predicted.
Yeah.
Whereas we can't.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you just said kind of parallels religion, you know. So there's a lot of, I mean, although he doesn't obviously like directly say, oh, I'm comparing this to God, whatever, you know, he's
I think it's
looking
definitely there.
Yeah, this is definitely has a lot of hint
bird
towards
is
religion.
undertones, yeah.
Exactly.
The bird
Undertones.
is divine and like it's kind of like the holy.
Yeah.
It is almost like he's worshiping the bird, or almost.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
for sure.
He's looking to the bird for answers.
Yeah, he's like,
The
how
bird
would
is
you-
like an immortal almost. Kind of.
You know, exactly, immortal.
Yeah, because
that-
he wouldn't call us mortals if he wasn't thinking of the bird as a
Yeah,
Immortal.
yeah, he's looking, and he asks a lot of questions about it too, and he's just like trying to figure it out and figure out things that he knows.
It's almost like he's praying to the bird. Could you
Yeah,
say?
Yeah, in a
I
way.
think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which
For sure.
I find that very odd, more personally, but that makes sense from his perspective.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, he's like, please, you know, he's saying, teach me, and he's like, what? Let's see. He says, I have never heard praise of love or wine that panted forth a flood of rapture so divine. So, you know, he's hearing all these great teachings and, you know, these songs from the bird, and he's like, what can I make of this, you know, and, like, I've never heard something so amazing before in my entire life, and
His own knows to do with it. He's just
yeah, exactly.
how-
because it's so divine, he just really he's having trouble articulating, you know,
And
the greatness of this bird.
he there at the end, you know, like, what you're just saying is he's asking the bird, teach me half the gladness that thy brain must know.
Yeah.
And so he can go share with others, because at this point he's starting to be like, oh, please, can I go like tell the world, you know, go tell it on the mountain kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
The world should listen as I am listening now.
Yeah.
Again, that people don't pay attention to what it is.
Exactly.
Which again brings it kind of back to that.
It says singing hymns unbidden, like
Yes.
exactly trying to understand it, and very important what the things that it's saying.
It is crazy. There's a lot more to this poem that I don't usually see.
Yeah.
There's
yeah,
a really
for
deep
sure.
appreciation for nature. There's like a lot of references
Oh, yeah.
to the beauty of nature.
And that's part of how
throughout
Shelley
poems.
writes to begin
Yeah.
with. I mean, he was friends with Lord Byron, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, they had a lot of parallels.
From rainbow
Um,
clouds there flow not, drops so bright to see, like as you were saying, it's in like rain.
I mean, remember in one of his
Flowers.
other poems,
Yeah.
I forget if it was it Mutability, I think, that he was talking about the different learning styles. He
Yeah.
was like, he made a dig at Lord Byron because he grew up in that stupid little cell block with the teacher, as whereas Lord Byron
Oh,
learned
yeah,
in nature.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
yeah.
he looks to nature a lot more, and he puts a high priority on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's like normal people, you know, they're just looking up at a bird they hear singing, like, oh, that's really nice, I'm
Pretty
gonna go on
cool.
with my day.
Yeah,
But,
it's
you know, Shelley's, he's
It's a poet
hearing,
mind working. It's
yeah,
kind of like
exactly.
all the nature and the beauty and like that in awe.
yeah, he's hearing the song of the bird, and he's hearing more than just the song
He doesn't want
itself.
to listen to it, he wants to understand it.
Exactly. He's hearing love and
That's
teachings in this song, and he's like just really trying to articulate what the bird is feeling and saying through his
And he,
glorious songs.
yeah, and he talks about how his contradictory goes, thou lovest, but never knew love's sad society. Like, and he talks about how like our sweetest songs are that tell the saddest thought. Like, he's trying to understand, like, well, is this something sad that the bird's trying to convey to me? Like, what is it exactly? Like, what's its goal in singing a song? How is it?
So a lot of this is just him trying to understand
Oh yeah.
the Skylark, or that unchanging. I mean, I think it comes down to that in general. He's speaking to, he's trying to comprehend, he's trying to learn
exactly.
from the Skylark. However, he's realizing that everything it has to teach, he can never attain.
Yeah, he
Still
can
coming to
never
that
have
back
that, yeah.
of the
'Cause
ideal.
he's only human.
Yes,
He
he's
can
only
understand,
human.
but he can never like obtain it. Yeah, as you were
Exactly,
saying.
the unreachable, regardless of the ideal.
Yeah.
I think it's continuing back to that from everything we're saying. That we won't ever get to what we want to get to.
Exactly.
Because of our imperfection and, according to Shelley, our changing nature. We'll never have that constant. We'll never have that solidified foundation of that unchangingness. I think that's where ultimately it comes down to at this point.
Yeah,
sure.
and that, like, everything you just said, that ideal exactly that's the religious undertone in this, you know, because, like, that's the
can't ever be as
foundation of
perfect as
religion.
God is. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, you could take it that far, or you could say that he's not implying that, but, like, I think he does look to he is, like, almost praying to the Skylark and trying to understand it, and you could compare it to Skylark to God.